a narrow stretch of water that is only 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Yet this tiny geographical bottleneck controls a staggering 20% of the world's oil trade. This is the Strait of Hormuz, my friends, the biggest maritime choke point on the planet. In the current war between USA and Iran declared that any ship or cargo passing through Strait of Hormuz will be attacked and burnt. And because of this, no ship is daring to cross this pass. This is affecting the global trade. The stakes? Barclays, a famous bank, have predicted that Brent crude prices could go up to $100 per barrel. And to understand how much costly $100 per barrel is, you can see here since the war started, the Brent crude prices are already at 81 US dollars from around 70 US dollars in the pre-war scenario. If you think this is just a geopolitical issue miles away from you, think again. If you are an Indian citizen, this impacts our daily lives too. Let's break down exactly what Strait of Hormuz is, its geopolitical significance, and how a supply chain shockwave can impact the Indian economy. Part 1. What and where is the Strait of Hormuz? To understand the risk, first we need to look at the map. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow path connecting Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman and eventually flowing out into the Arabian Sea. Why is it so geopolitically significant? Because of the world's most oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iraq, Kuwait, Iran and Oman rely almost entirely on this one exit door to export their crude to the world. Right now, over 20 million barrels per day of crude oil transfers through this strait every single day. Not just oil, but also 20% of the world's liquid natural gas, LNG, also passes through this strait, which can heavily impact global electricity and manufacturing networks. When geopolitical tensions rise, especially concerning Iran, the threat of blockades or attacks on tankers instantly spikes the global commodity pricing. But to understand the true scenario, let's zoom in into one specific buyer, India. Part 2. India's oil addiction. What is the demand of oil right now in India? India right now consumes 5 million barrels per day. But here is a terrifying metric for India's macroeconomic stability. India imports massive 90% of its crude oil. India is the world's third largest consumer and importer of the crude oil after China and the United States of America, relying on imports with major supplier being Russia, Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Key Indian companies importing oil include Reliance Industries, Indian Oil Corporation and Bharat Petroleum. When India buys oil from Gulf, the transit time via Strait of Hormuz is incredibly efficient. It takes only 5 to 7 days to reach the tanker to Indian shores from the Gulf. And if Strait of Hormuz is compromised, India would be forced to source oil from other countries like Russia. But rerouting and buying from alternative suppliers pushes the shipping transit time to 20 to 25 days because those suppliers are far away from India. Now think about the working capital tied up in that delay. In business terms, increasing your lead time from 5 days to 25 days destroys supply chain efficiency. This brings us to the core concept of supply chain resilience. When your primary route is blocked, your freight, logistics, fuel and insurance costs skyrocket, which bleeds directly into the price of commodity itself. Part 3. How does this impact you? So to understand this, we first need to understand how is this oil consumed in India and how will this disruption impact the economy. If the Brent crude price chart breaches $100 per barrel, the shock waves will hit every level of society. Let's look at this more closely. For businesses, imagine you are running a logistics heavy startup like commerce or delivery platform, Blinkit, Amazon, Porter. Your unit economics rely on cheap transportation. A spike in crude oil price doesn't only make the petrol price expensive, it drastically increases freight and last mile delivery cost. For these businesses, profit margins will get severely compressed. Eventually, the delivery rate per kilometer will be increased and that will be charged from consumer like us or you. For airlines, jet fuel makes up to 40% of the airline's operating cost. Mention that carriers like Indigo and Air India will see their operating margins get destroyed and eventually the ticket prices will rise. For common people, truck moves 70% of India's domestic freight. If diesel prices surge, the cost of transporting agriculture produces or FMCG products will increase. This translates directly into higher retail prices prices of the goods which we consume every day. For the economy, a rising import bill weakens the rupee, widening the current account of deficit. This forces the Reserve Bank to manage the inflation, potentially keeping the interest rates higher for longer, making car and home loans much more expensive for the average citizen. Also, a weaker rupee makes every other imported good, from electronics to machinery, more expensive for common citizen. The conclusion: the situation like in the Strait of Hormuz currently illustrates the brutal reality of risk management in the hyper-connected world. You can have the most optimized delivery network in Mumbai or Bangalore, but your margins are at the ultimate mercy of a 33-kilometer wide stretch of water miles away from you. India is currently building strategic petroleum reserves to build resilience, but the sheer volume of daily consumption means the Strait of Hormuz will remain India's ultimate economic lifeline for the foreseeable future. If you found this case study insightful, do watch this another case study about how BRICS is planning to kill the dollar in the world trade. Hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this. This is your channel for free MBA. See you in the next one.